Israeli military commanders are mobilizing tanks and putting tens of thousands of reserve troops on standby in their ongoing campaign against Gaza. As their air force attacks from the sky, their ground forces are preparing for an offensive against the Palestinian militant group Hamas.
Palestinians report extensive damage after 4 Israeli airstrikes hit the Hamas government's cabinet headquarters in Gaza City. This violence comes as Israel and Hamas continue trading rocket fire and airstrikes as well. There's a look at it right there. Palestinians saying at least 30 people have been killed in Gaza since Wednesday, at least 3 deaths reported in Israel. At one point, now this was Friday, Palestinian militants fired rockets at both Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, prompting Israel to call up thousands more of its military reservists in preparation for a possible ground war. Reports say an Israeli airstrike hit the Jabalia Palestinian camp that is just north of Gaza City. A small boy was reportedly killed in that blast.
Israel's largest city was targeted for a second day. Hamas firing a missile at Tel Aviv, 44 miles from the Gaza border. But the most significant escalation is their launch of a long-range missile at Jerusalem, some 55 miles away. The Israeli military says it landed some miles south of the city in the Israeli settlement of Gush Etzion in the West Bank. Hamas are claiming that they used a previously unknown long-range missile, which they are calling an M75 Qassam. More missiles have been launched across wide areas of Israel, including Ashdod, Sderot and several towns and military bases in southern Israel, including Rim and Ofakim. Israel has launched an even more intensive barrage of rocket fire at Gaza. Since Wednesday, it says it has attacked 500 sites. And in the last 24 hours alone, the Israeli Defense Forces say they've targeted 150 Palestinian military sites.
In the past few minutes, another explosion has been seen, and a Hamas government spokesman has confirmed that on Saturday morning, as it is there now, the cabinet headquarters of Gaza's Hamas government was hit by an Israeli airstrike. The cabinet headquarters, the spokesman said, targeted with 4 strikes, and the government stresses that it remains committed to its positions and it stands alongside the people. A BBC correspondent in Gaza has said that there were further strikes, reporting that he heard 5 large blasts in quick succession. We can also show you some nighttime shots from southeast Jerusalem. Israeli security forces here believed to be inspecting an area where one of those rockets fired from Gaza, targeting but falling short of Jerusalem, where that rocket is believed to have fallen. Israel has said repeatedly in the past few days that it is prepared to escalate the operation if these rocket attacks continue. In fact, the Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman said that the options included even the possible assassination of the Hamas Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh. Avigdor Lieberman saying that nobody in Gaza is immune if these rocket attacks continue, not Haniyeh and not anybody else.
The Egyptian Prime Minister has denounced Israel's attacks on Gaza and says Cairo will try to secure a ceasefire. Hisham Kandil paid a 3-hour visit to the Palestinian territory on Friday, visiting the Council of Ministers building as well as a hospital treating those wounded by the attacks. Cross-border fighting continued during the visit. The country, which signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1979, has brokered informal truces between Israel and Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip before. The government of Egypt, which is seen as ideologically close to Hamas, now has to balance solidarity with fellow Islamists with the country's dependence on US aid, worth around €1.6 billion per year. Kandil says Egypt seeks the establishment of a Palestinian state, with Jerusalem as its capital.